through this computer.
Okay.
Okay, we are up. So we have spent a few weeks talking about the different roles in the story theater. The playwright, the performer, the producer, the promoter, the director. And I don't know if you feel anything like I do, Yael, but sometimes it feels a bit like I am juggling chainsaws, trying to keep all these roles square in my head and in my life and my business.
Yes, I absolutely know what you're talking about. As we were talking about this a little beforehand, and I'm kind of excited to be talking about it because I think it's a perfect opportunity to talk about how to integrate what we've been talking about, those roles, into your own story. Basically, how to own each role in yourself. Personally, I use them, especially now that we've been talking more about it. I use it as kind of a balance. Like what we were saying earlier, you and I both have a lot going on in our lives right now, between business, between family, between, you know, just stuff going on in our surroundings, between, you know, continue trying to stay consistent with what we're doing, where we're going, and building our businesses and stuff like that. With all that stuff, I don't know about you, but I get overwhelmed trying to
Yes.
balance. So the way that I've been looking at it is I feel like for me, I feel like the producer gets overwhelmed because the producer is the one who needs to, you know, needs to update QuickBooks, and get balanced on that, you know, take the time for that. The producer is the one that needs to, you know, make the arrangements for upcoming travels, you know, that kind of stuff. Make sure stuff is, you know, everything's rolling the way it should be.
Sure.
You know, this is all the producers. The producer is also the one, you know, doing all the behind the scenes with the business, you know, everything I'm working on with that. So all that stuff, the producer's quite overwhelmed lately. Got a lot going on. But the reason that this whole storyline helps me is, as the character playing the performer, and we're calling the person is the performer. As the performer, I'm still loving life.
Mm.
Some bumps in the road, yes. You know, have there been bumps in the road? Definitely. Let's call it contrast. Um, but I have to remind myself that this is only a part of my journey. This is not what my life looks like.
Yes.
My life overall, is wonderful. Um, but there are moments that, you know, I just like to shoot somebody. You know,
Yes.
sometimes myself, you know, but the point is, you know, I'm not always happy go lucky and carefree and stuff like that. Um, but I don't have to show it.
And the interesting thing is you do show it most of the time. Is that I think it's only been a hand. You almost always have a smile on your face when we're talking, and I don't know if that's like
Yeah.
I only see you a little bit out of the week, so maybe there's other times during the week when that isn't the case. But
God bless my husband because because and I tell him all the time, thank God you love me.
yes, I can relate to that.
So
Same with my wife, and I mean, she saw some dark sides of me this week,
right.
and
Yeah.
not my best public performance or even private performance.
Exactly.
one of the things that is showing up too is that with all these different roles to play in our story theater, it can, when, like my producer, the bookkeeper part of me,
Right.
I had to do some catch up earlier this week after I just hosted a summit, the Sing Your Heart Song Summit. I have a program that I'm delivering today and tomorrow. I've got personal things going on in my life, and it's hard to give equal share to each of the roles.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I realize is that I don't have to give equal share to each of the roles in my life.
Right.
That
There are times that one is going to need more TLC than another.
right. And there's also the fact that I see myself primarily as a playwright, that my job, where I find my greatest satisfaction and where I think I create the greatest value, is in how I am giving form, giving shape, giving expression to the vision that I have for myself and for my message. Right. That for me, the playwright is the one that makes all the other roles possible. It's kind of like, it's hard to make a movie without a script.
Right.
Exactly. You can get a bunch of people together and you can probably screw around and create something.
Ad lib everything.
Right.
But you don't know what it's gonna turn out to be.
Right. And
no idea what's gonna happen with it.
Sometimes in an improv
but that's what a lot of people are doing. That's what a lot of people are doing. And that's I don't know about you, but personally, that's how I see the mission we're on, is for people to understand that they don't realize that they are the playwright. They don't realize, if your life sucks, you're writing it that way.
Yes.
So anyway, so what we were talking about as far as balancing the roles, yes, that part of me is overwhelmed. But in the meantime, I can still have a smile on my face and I can still have this conversation. And you and I are more focused on the positives. And as you know, I believe very, very strongly in the law of attraction. And I try to focus on the positives.
Yes.
And I think that's the important takeaway from this, is I try to focus on the positives. And in the meantime, stuff falls into place. I'm, as far as, we were stressed out about what we were going to do this weekend. We wanted to get away and we couldn't find a campground. We couldn't find what we were looking for. And then we came up with a solution. So stuff just happens. It clears it. The path gets cleared out as long as you're not, sitting there stressing about it.
Right.
Oh, wow. Really? My son, Anthony, is calling me. I'll call him back. But that's funny that we were just talking about him.
Yes.
And speaking of the universe, the universe speaks.
Isn't that interesting how it almost always seems that whenever we're creating an episode, that something outside of our control and outside of our vision shows
I think that's the whole point of what we're doing, is you can't sweat yes, everything is not going to go exactly as per script, how we plan it out. There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be, diversions. Get it back on track.
So tell our audience why we were talking about Anthony in the first place.
Oh, we were talking about Anthony in the first place because he has a tattoo on his shoulder that the symbol that it is, it represents a character in Greek mythology. I think he's a demigod, and this symbol is his crest, and it says, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I love that. I absolutely love that.
That is really
now
cool.
In this story, it's because he is able, as a demigod or whatever he is, he's able to bring things back to life.
Mm,
So a lot of people ask him, you know, can you bring my loved one back to life and stuff like that? And when he has to say no, you know, because he knows the consequences, whatever,
sure.
you know, whatever they may be. So just because he can doesn't mean he should.
Right.
So, and on the same note, we were talking about it because there's a lot of things that I can do, but they're not my job.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of things that you can do, but you can delegate or you can, you know, you have resources, stuff like that.
Or refer people to somebody else who
Exactly.
enjoys doing whatever they're asking me to do much
Right.
more than
You're
I do.
perfectly capable, but somebody else actually enjoys doing
Right.
it.
So no, I'm
Whereas
not
your
going to do your
time is
bookkeeping. I'm not going to do your
right.
programming. I'm not going to. No, I'm not going to
Right.
design the image for your T-shirt.
Exactly. So you can, but it doesn't align with you right now.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and that's okay. And one of the things that I wanted to really emphasize with regards to these different roles is that it seems like for you and I, Yael, that the playwright plays the dominant role in our story theater.
mhm,
But there are plenty of other people whose dominant role is the performer or the promoter or the producer or the director, and each
mhm,
one of those people, it plays an important role. I, for me, one of the reasons that I developed this framework was because I was so tired of everybody saying in the space that I was in that I needed to be the promoter all the time. And that is a
okay.
role that I play for sure, but it is not my dominant role. It is not what I do the majority of my time.
Well, I don't necessarily see the promoter as just like promoting business.
Mhm.
I see the promoter as that is the it's kind of like a lot of times it's a facade. It's the facade you create for the world outside of you to see.
Mm,
That's the promoter. The
okay.
promoter is the one who keeps up with the latest fashions. The promoter is the one who, you know, um, what's your style these days? Because your
Sure.
style changes over the years, obviously, you know, over time and stuff like that. The promoter is the one who creates that persona.
Sure.
So
That's really interesting. You
there are
should.
some people who are as a performer or as the promoter, they're advertising all this stuff, but they don't like what they're advertising. They want to be
Yes.
in the public eye, but they don't like what they're advertising.
Yes.
So change it.
That reminds me when I worked as my undergrad is in marketing, and
Hmm.
when I after I graduated, I was in sales for a while. And one of the things that I learned through being a salesperson
Hmm.
is that it's so much easier, so much more fun, and so much more fulfilling when I really believe in the product that I'm selling, right? You know,
Yes.
just because your job says to go sell this, you know,
I sold thermal pane windows for a while. Yeah, that was fun. That lit my world up.
are you being sarcastic or are you being
No, I did. And yes, I'm being sarcastic with that.
yeah, and same. I mean, I have sold closet organizer, I've sold, industrial paper, I've sold
Right,
as a missionary, I sold the gospel. I mean, uh,
right.
and some of those things worked a whole lot better than others,
Hmm.
but it was really, there had to be an alignment between myself and that image that I was portraying. That
So the image you were portraying was a person who sells whatever you're selling. But that doesn't align with yourself at all because yourself wouldn't be selling whatever, thermal pane windows in my case, or, closet organizers in your case, whatever the case is. Because it's just not a product that aligns with you. So
right.
I'm sure I didn't that job. I didn't last very long at that job, and it didn't break my heart to not be at that job anymore.
While you were saying that, I was also thinking that there's a book by Daniel Pink called To Sell is Human. So the idea is basically that we're always selling something. You
Yes.
know, we're selling this idea about the story theater and the roles in the
Mhm.
story theater right now.
Right.
But also, even while I was an accountant and really not quote unquote selling anything, I was still selling something. I was still
Mhm.
selling my employer on my ability to, you know, create the programs and the reports and, you know, find the answers,
Right.
find the numerical needle in the haystack
Well, you're
as
always
to,
selling yourself.
right.
You're always selling yourself. It's just a matter of who you're selling yourself to.
Yes.
Are you selling yourself to someone who, they don't align with you? They're just they say, "Hey, what's up?" But they're not going to be your customers, they're not going to be your clients, they're probably not even going to be your friends. Um and then there are other people that you're selling yourself to where you want them to, those people you shine in
Mm,
front of, because those people you're completely aligned with. You have similar values, you have similar interests, you have similar missions, whatever the case is. So
sure.
with those people, you're selling yourself, and those people are going to wind up being whether clients or friends or whatever the case is.
Absolutely.
So, but you're always selling yourself. That's just how it works.
And I think that's true a lot for a lot of the different roles too, is, you know, we're always performing. We're always, you know, envisioning something. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's giving appropriate space to that vision that we have,
Right.
that and the alignment that we have, because what is alignment after all? You know, what does that even mean?
Alignment would be, I can get all spiritual on this. Your inner being, your inner being is the true you, the you that you were always meant to be.
Mm,
That you, the physical you, doesn't even realize your own potential. You have no idea what's locked inside of you. Um, but these beliefs get in our way. These stories that we tell ourselves, that's what gets in our way. These stories that say you're not good enough, these stories that say you're just not doing enough, these stories that say, um, you know, what's wrong with you, these stories that, that tell you what an idiot you've been all your life, or, oh, you've made stupid choices all your life, all these stories that you're telling yourself that you may not even realize you are.
sure.
um but all these stories, these are the beliefs, and that's what's blocking you from the real you,
Mm,
from your inner being, let's call it. Alignment is knowing your inner being,
mm,
knowing that part of you, and owning that part of you, owning your mistakes, owning your, I don't have regrets anymore. I don't regret anything. Um there are, I'm not super proud of a lot of stuff, don't get me wrong, but I don't have regrets. I've made peace with myself. I've made peace with all parts of me.
mm.
Usually.
Yes.
Usually.
Yes.
There are times
There's
that
still
there are
some things.
times that I still yeah, there are times that I still become a scared little girl. There are times that I still, become unsure and, lose my confidence for a minute or that kind of stuff. Um and those are my off days. And my emotions are what guide me to tell me where my alignment is off.
Sure.
And
So
that's what I teach, is how to understand that.
excellent. And what I'm thinking when with regards to alignment, one of the things that I realized when I had burned out,
Hmm.
I was no longer working as a corporate accountant. And I really had no desire to be working as a corporate accountant.
Right.
That I needed to figure out how to find alignment between that inner self that you expressed, as well as the outer self. How was I showing up in the world? You know,
Right.
were my daily actions, was my performance in alignment with the script that I wanted to be portraying, right?
Hmm.
And also, so I had a conversation with someone earlier this week where she talked about essentially three different selves, that there is the inner self, there's the external self, and there's the express self. So there's the idea that just like you express the inner self, where we're in tune with, what is my purpose? Who am I? What are my values? How do what is it that I want to be creating?
Right.
Then there's the outer expression of ourselves, the person that's on stage, so to speak, the performer, who is actually going through the motions and acting out that script.
Right.
And then there is the desires that, that actor is not just performing that one role. That actor has a career trajectory, let's say. They have a desire of the bigger picture of where they want to be going. What do they want to be doing?
That's
not only with that specific role, but with the overall design of their life.
That's where the producer comes in. The producer is the one, is the same. It's the same person.
Right.
But that person, when you align with the producer within yourself, the producer is lined up and gets things in order, and things fall into place, and all your systems are ready to go, and all your, all your bookkeeping is up to date. And, once that's lined up, I'll get there one day soon,
Yeah.
So that's the producer role.
Yes. Well, I think the director role also plays an important part here, because the director is the one saying, okay, on the
lines
stage,
up people. The director lines up the people.
Yeah. So that the performance, what is seen on the stage, lines up with what the overall vision is. The producer is the one that makes sure that, we don't run out of costumes. We don't run out of money, that we don't run out of time, that we, that we stick to the parameters that we work in. The director is the one saying, okay, well, are we portraying the story that we want to be portraying? Are we, is the message getting across?
Right. So what have we missed so far?
Promoter.
I think we've talked about the promoter, the performer, the playwright,
the producer, and the director.
Okay. All right. I'm just making sure we covered all the grounds.
And we don't pop up with another one like we did.
Right. No, we better not. Anyway, but the whole point of this is, in owning these roles within yourself, alignment is aligning with each role.
Yes. That we're able to see
understanding where you're off. And you can be off in one role, but it doesn't have to be your whole existence.
Right.
And like I said, I don't necessarily need the whole world to know that I'm ready to pull out my hair at times.
Yeah, and I've succeeded at pulling out about but it really is one of the things that I was working with earlier today in a program that I was running, is just the idea that, what we are creating as the storytellers, as the team within the story theater of life, is providing hope and guidance for others. And that, well, it can begin with just finding our own story, finding the story that helps us to get through the dark forest. Once we've gotten to the other side of that dark forest and gotten some understanding as to how we might help other people do the same thing, then we can start sharing that story more publicly, so that other people can find their way forward too.
I think people don't understand the word story, or they don't understand that that your life story is made up of pieces of their small stories. Each of them is a story. And, someone may say, what's going on these days?
Right.
In the same sense, you're asking, what's your story?
Yes. Exactly.
I want to know what's your story.
And they might be talking about the little story, the
Mhm.
story about, well, what did you do this weekend? Or,
Right.
who are you rooting for on the football game this
Right.
weekend?
Yeah.
Which we won't go down any further that path, uh,
Okay.
but but there are lots of stories that are happening, and there are stories that matter something to us. There are stories
Mhm.
that don't really matter to us.
Exactly.
And then there's so those are all the kind of little stories, but there's also a big story
Mhm.
in what is the narrative for our lives? What are
Right.
we, where have we been? Where are we now? Where are we going? What is
Right. I think people get lost in the little stories.
Mm-hmm.
People get lost in the little stories, and in the meantime, they're not writing the bigger stories. They're just letting life happen to them. Things, life aggravates them, life frustrates them, life is annoying, life pisses them off or whatever. Well, you know what? It's going to keep doing it if
Yeah.
that's all you're focused on. But write the bigger picture, write the bigger story.
What is the outcome that you
Decide,
want to?
right? Decide what you want. Make decisions, stick to them, but be flexible when stuff comes up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because stuff
Because
will come
otherwise
up.
you're sweating the small stuff, because stuff will come up. I
Yeah.
guarantee it.
And sometimes
You
that
get
is small stuff, and sometimes it's
right,
bigger stuff. And
right.
I mean, it's kind of, you know,
Sometimes you miss the exit. It happened to me once or twice. You miss the exit. What are you going to do? You're going to freak out. You're going to pull a U-turn. You're going to, you're going to just get off at the next exit and go around, or what are you going to do? There's so many different options. You can freak out, or you can just do whatever you got to do. Okay. You took a detour. That sucks. You'll be 5 minutes later, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
But wherever you're going, you're still going to get there. So quit sweating the small stuff.
and look at the bigger picture, right?
Right. The bigger picture is, did you enjoy the ride? Maybe you got to see something along the way that you would have missed if you didn't, if you hadn't gone down that detour.
And when we think about the bigger picture, I'm also thinking about, what is the legacy that I want to be leaving? Where is it that I want to be when people follow my story? Where is that going to take them? It could be a bunch of little stories, but it hopefully, and what we're trying to get at here in this podcast is, that we can design a life that is much more fulfilling and rewarding and meaningful,
right,
when we take the time to step back and look at the story that we're telling, rather than just getting caught up in the little stories that that we can we get.
When I miss my exit, if I go an alternate route, then I usually, because I do believe so strongly that everything happens for a reason, I usually wind up finding something that, whether it's the scenery or just something, maybe, or maybe it's just a cute little house that, whatever. But I find something that I wouldn't have seen had I not taken that route.
Right. And
In
sometimes
which case, the universe speaks, and that's what I look for. So I take all of those as opportunities.
Awesome.
So.
And sometimes that missing the exits, and I've been known to miss exit a couple of times, is really just a wake-up call. Just, hey, you've been on autopilot, dude, and you're 20 miles past.
Yes, that's true. Actually, that happened the other day for me. The universe just reminded me to breathe.
Yes.
I just needed a reminder. Just take a breath. You know what? That was earlier today. I actually said those words. I think my golf cart. I was in a hurry to get back here to get to our meeting.
Sure.
I was in a hurry to get over here, and my golf cart was just kind of moseying along, and I was just like, okay. And I literally, by the time I pulled up in the driveway here, I literally just, I said the words. I said, thank you for reminding me to breathe. But I was rushing myself because I was trying to get here on time and stuff like that. Awesome. So anyway, So that's an example of just things that would have been missed, or, missed opportunities. Are you going to be stressed out, because on the other hand, at first I was really annoyed with the fact, like, come on, I got stuff to do. I'm in a hurry. And, I thought about jumping off and just pushing the damn golf cart because the battery's low, I guess. It was having trouble up the hill.
Well, that's a good point right there is, are we watching the battery to make sure that that it has enough juice for us to be able to do everything that we have to do?
Right. So anyway,
I think
so I could stress about it. Yeah, I could stress about it, or I could, go the other way.
Yes. So now that we're at the pinnacle of our breath, our breathing, where do we go from here? What is the story that we're creating? And perhaps that is what we will be looking at next, is now that we're familiar with these different roles, how do we bring them together to create the story that we want to be creating? How do we bring the different and oftentimes disparate parts of ourselves together in alignment, like we talked about a little bit earlier today, so that when we look up, when the golf cart of life reminds us to breathe, that when we breathe, we recognize that we are where we are meant to be.
Yep.
And that it all is all working out.
So I'm going to say, for everyone listening, my question is, how much time do you spend creating and actually thinking consciously about the bigger picture, versus how much of the little things are getting in the way of the bigger picture? How much are you taking ownership of the little things? Just some things, just let them go. Just let it go. For God's sakes, it's frustrating. You're having a moment. It sucks. Okay. You feel like hell for a few minutes, for, maybe a few hours, maybe even a few days. But all right, let's get things going again. Quit focusing on that. Let's get things going. Let's get things back on track.
Yeah. And it's just noticing where are you right now?
Yes. And where are you right now, and where are you going? And quit stressing on the small stuff.
Yeah. So perhaps our homework for you, our listener, is simply to breathe. Notice where you are.
Yes. Okay.
Excellent. So unless, do you have anything else to add at this time? Okay.
No, thank you.
So our listening audience, until our stories meet again, be the bright light in someone's dark night.